Great. Well, thank you everybody for sticking around for our panel discussion. And maybe to continue on a theme that Sundar Pichai started is, how can companies here grow bigger, stronger, faster, as I put it. There's an opportunity that you all have in the room right now. Maybe I can take a step back and explain a little bit about, the growth opportunity in Vietnam. I'm asked by investors, by individuals, by entrepreneurs, what should I do, with myself in Vietnam or outside of Vietnam? And I feel, very strongly, as Lê Hồng Minh has mentioned, that, you guys are in the right place at the right time. These next 5 to 10 years in Vietnam are going to be incredible years for value creation, and you're literally in the right room at the right time. And if we can help you grow, and the panel is here hopefully to lend a helping hand or a bit of support, I think we can do very big things as an ecosystem. And so this panel is structured, basically, 4 of the panelists have platforms that hopefully can provide startups here or growth companies here the opportunity to grow bigger, stronger, faster. And the reason why I say bigger, stronger, faster is, if you do a basic SWOT analysis of our ecosystem, you have a lot of competitors looking at this market, whether regionally or globally. And they have a lot of more tools now to really reach into the Vietnam market, via Facebook, via Google, in terms of ad placement to market their product remotely. Facebook doesn't have an office here. YouTube, I think, just started an office here. So even established global companies with significant traction in this market can attack in the market very, very easily. So the faster we can grow, bigger, faster, stronger, I think we all, can capture that opportunity. So that's my little speech. But why don't we start a little bit going down the line and explaining a little bit of how these platforms can help startups and growth companies get bigger. So David, why don't you maybe...
Thank you. Okay, so I'm putting on a different hat now. So earlier it was as Newly Ventures, which makes investments. And one of the things that we loved investing were SaaS companies. But one of the challenges for Southeast Asia was we kept running into very difficult enterprise sales and very difficult customer support. So they would say, we love your product, they would purchase it, and then they would say your product doesn't work, and then we would go to the companies, and we would find that they were using Internet Explorer, like from '95 or whatever. They were using really, really old software and all those things. So we spent a lot of time like hand-holding our clients, which isn't scalable at all. And so I happen to enjoy the process, but most of our the product companies we would invest in didn't. So we decided to put up a company that focuses on business development and client success so that founders who want to focus on product can plug in. So we started at Manila, and we're looking to launch in Indonesia next year. So it's still a startup, but that's the main idea. We focus on business development, getting sales, and supporting the clients.
So would your target product developer or company here do to be on your platform?
So we're looking for SaaS companies. So
maybe give an example.
Yeah, so particularly we like HR products. So the reason why we like HR products is because, for example, payroll, that type of thing. It's very difficult, but once you're in, you get every single user in your client company is a user. So in the Philippines, we've had some success with over 100 clients in the last 6 months. So we'll have like a Family Mart or a Coffee Bean. Of course, we have an unfair advantage for Coffee Bean. Let's say a lot of restaurants and retail. And the nice thing about these guys is they grow as the companies grow. So the user base grows, and it drops our client acquisition costs and all that. But a lot of HR is interesting to us.
And what is your footprint right now in terms of sales or reach in terms of client base?
So we launched Bridge end of May. So we're probably going to end a little bit more than $500,000 US in ARR. So it's about a few months, over 100 clients, a couple of thousand users. And so that was all in one SaaS platform. So we'll probably end the year with about 7. so that we're all planning to launch in January. So that was interesting.
Okay, maybe I just want to not misinterpret. So if a product or company would plug into your platform, they would have immediately access to 2,000 potential, or how many clients on the front end?
So
or
it depends on what the product is.
Okay.
So if it's within HR and it's something that lends itself to payroll, for example, yes, they would have access to that. So a good example would be, what I'm really looking for is something that has like peer-to-peer lending, or something that you can do salary loans using the system. That would give you access to that whole market. So that's something that we're looking at.
Got it. Okay, why don't we skip Zung for now, and go to Marcus, because Zung will be an example of how to grow faster. Obviously, Uber has had incredible traction globally, and of course in Vietnam. But what did you
Hi,
want to
thank you. My name is Marcus. I'm a co-founder at Coder School. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. I also have 2 other co-founders in the audience. There's Harley is over there, and then also Charles is back there. So at Coder School, we focus on growing engineers. So what that means is we actually train professional engineers, we make them better. Some of our experiences, we worked in Silicon Valley training engineers at many of the top startups in the world, places like Facebook, actually engineers from Uber, and as well as like Lyft, Dropbox, and et cetera. So we came to Vietnam to actually use this high quality curriculum and make the engineers as good as possible. What our model is we actually hold free classes for engineers. So we want to attract the best talent, and then we want to introduce that talent to the best opportunities. So currently, like, we also offer internal company trainings. So what this means is you're a startup, you hire a bunch of engineers that know Java, but you need to get them up to speed on Ruby quickly. So we actually we can design curriculum and then train the engineers to become proficient in as quickly pace as possible.
Is there a minimum size number of developers per company, Marcus, or is 1, 2, 3 developers okay? How do you?
So what we do is in our free classes, we'll offer for companies to buy seats. So if you just have like 1 or 2 engineers that you need to bring up to speed, then you can just buy a seat within one of our classes.
Okay. And how many total developers do you have going through your program right now?
So we've had 70 developers go through our program, and we're looking to coming this winter we'll be expanding into working with universities and also just increasing our course catalog. So right now we have classes in iOS and Ruby, and we'll be expanding into in the near future into languages like Android and React and etc.
And we were briefly talking before this about the demo day that you have coming up. Is that a project-based?
Yeah. So how our courses are structured is actually very interesting. We have a big emphasis on product-based thinking. So even though engineers are learning a completely new language, we actually challenge them to think in terms of product. So for the first 4 weeks, they are just learning the language. The second 4 weeks, they break into mini startups, and we say, actually create an idea and make it reality. So this January 6th, we actually have our demo day for our iOS class, where students will compete to present the best projects that are judged based on design as well as technical difficulty.
Great. Maybe I can slide over to Luan. Maybe you can give a little background, Luan.
Ok, xin chào tất cả mọi người. Tiếng Anh Luân không tốt nên Luân sẽ nói tiếng Việt. Luân xin giới thiệu, Luân là founder sáng lập ra trang web nhaccutui.com. Thì hiện tại nếu như mà ở đây có nhiều anh chị em á, nếu mà nhìn biết á, thì chị nghĩ rằng là trang web nhạc cũng đơn giản để làm. Nhưng mà đến năm thứ hôm nay á, có thể nói là năm thứ 8 mà coi như quá trình phát triển của trang web, và nó thay đổi rất là nhiều. Trong quá trình vừa qua thì cũng may mắn á, là trong 8 năm trôi qua đó thì Luân cũng làm được 3 dòng đầu tư ABC. Chắc ở Việt Nam cũng ít công ty làm được đến cái mức độ này. Và nó đã thay đổi một cái quá trình từ một website cá nhân bình thường đến xây dựng thành một cái platform. Hiện tại thì có thể nói rõ sơ qua là bên phía Luân có khoảng hơn 4 triệu người dùng thường xuyên mỗi ngày. Khoảng hơn 50% những người dùng máy được coi như là sử dụng trên mobile. Thì với những con số đó thì về phía nhà của tôi có thể xuất hiện từ web, web, các hệ điều hành iPhone, iOS, Android, Winphone hay tất cả những cái thiết bị khác như là các Smart TV vân vân và vân vân. Thì thực ra thì cũng như các bạn thôi, khi ban đầu khởi nghiệp thì nói thật lòng là cũng không nghĩ đến ngày hôm nay là mình sẽ có được một cái tập khách hàng lớn và một cái platform như thế. Trong quá trình mình làm thì mình cũng học hỏi rất nhiều từ các anh chị em đi trước và trao đổi qua lại thì mình coi như là đạt được những con số ngày hôm nay. Thì nói là có thể giúp gì cho các anh chị em startup thì có hai cái. Nếu mà giúp về trực tiếp thì nếu mà các anh chị em nào có làm, ví dụ như muốn làm ca sĩ đi, thì có thể là kiếm bên phía NCT. Thì nhà của tôi đã coi như đã từng coi như là hỗ trợ rất là nhiều ca sĩ. Những ca sĩ, thậm chí có những ca sĩ chưa bao giờ ra một cái đĩa CD nhưng hiện tại là rất là hot trên thị trường, ví dụ như Sơn Tùng, Nu Phước Thịnh, Tiên Tiên. Thì đó là những cái mà bạn gọi là mình gọi là khởi nghiệp trên nền âm nhạc. Ngoài ra thì một số các anh chị em khác làm về thể nghiệm về media, về truyền thông thì có thể là sẽ hợp tác với mình một cách nào đấy, thì mình đã từng làm nhiều cái rồi. Trong một số cái hỗ trợ gián tiếp thì Luân coi như là cũng thường xuyên coi như là hỗ trợ các anh chị em trao đổi, có tư vấn, có và thậm chí là giúp những cái mối quan hệ kết nối với những đối tác khác. Bởi vì thực ra thì Luân cũng khá thân với lại các anh chị em trong ngành. Đấy là những cái mà Luân nghĩ là Luân có thể giúp cho khởi nghiệp Việt Nam cũng như là các anh chị em ở đây một cái cơ hội gặp cũng như là một cơ hội làm việc và sẵn sàng vì điều đấy. Cảm ơn.
Great. Great one. Maybe just a follow-up question. Is there a particular content type or a company that you'd like to partner with, like let's say games or news site, or is there any, with that many users visiting daily, 4 million users daily, are you looking for specific partnerships in terms of content?
Hiện tại thì về phía đối tác thì bên mình hiện tại có những cái cách, thí dụ như về bên mình thì business model của mình nó cũng chia làm nhiều dạng khác nhau. Mình có thu phí quảng cáo, là coi như là mình bán quảng cáo và thay vì người dùng phải trả tiền thì người dùng coi như là xem quảng cáo. Trong một số trường hợp khác nếu người dùng mà gọi là không muốn xem quảng cáo thì họ sẽ trả phí cho mình. Mình hiện tại đang mong muốn hợp tác, thứ nhất là những cái partner về ad network, về video, thì đó là những đối tác mà mình có thể hướng tới. Tại bởi vì là hiện tại thì mình cũng hợp tác với lại phía Google, Facebook hay một số đơn vị khác. Tuy nhiên là chúng ta luôn luôn refer là những đối tác của Việt Nam. Và nếu như các anh chị em nào mà khởi nghiệp về quảng cáo, về ad network, video thì có thể là liên hệ bên mình là nhất. Cái thứ hai là về nội dung. Hiện tại thì bên mình coi như là mua khá là nhiều về nội dung, về những cái show, những cái sitcom, những cái về hài, giải trí, thậm chí phim ngắn vân vân. Mình cũng có thể là làm việc hợp tác trên chính cái nền đấy. Ngoài ra thì với một tập khách hàng lớn như mình, hiện tại thì mình có khoảng hơn 20 mấy triệu người đăng ký và số lượng người vào trang web như app khoảng 4 triệu mỗi ngày. Thì mình nghĩ rằng là với tập khách hàng đấy thì các anh chị em mà có một ý tưởng nào tận dụng được cái lượng khách hàng đấy thì hoàn toàn có thể gửi email trực tiếp cho mình hoặc thậm chí nhắn tin trên Facebook thì mình đều welcome. Xin cảm ơn.
Thanks, Lon. Maybe we'll go one over to Charles. Maybe tell us a little bit about Tapjoy and yeah.
This morning I spoke to you from a venture capital perspective, but today, this afternoon, I'd like to tell you about my company, Tapjoy. Tapjoy is a mobile rewarded ad network. I'm curious, how many people have heard of Tapjoy? Can you raise your hand? Okay. One. Is that one, really? Okay. Tapjoy started its business probably in 2010, at the beginning of smartphone revolution. Tapjoy is based in San Francisco, and it was started by two ex-Google guys. They started Tapjoy to make games. So in the first year of Tapjoy, they produced 5 mobile games. But they could not figure out how to distribute, because in the new world of apps, distribution of apps, user acquisition in the app world was very new. So what they decided to do was they got together with several friends in the Valley who also produced mobile game. They each had about 1,000 users, and they decided, let's share users. And by sharing users, they were able to distribute the games. This launched the smart idea, hey, better than making games, which is very volatile, let's create a platform. Let's create an ad platform for apps. So that's what Tapjoy did. So Tapjoy launched into a mobile ad platform, but it's reward-based. So in the world of mobile advertising, there's many ways to cut it, but one way is reward and non-reward. Non-reward is everything you know. Google, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. These are all the non-reward channels, and Tapjoy represents reward. That means that in exchange for engaging with advertising, you will get rewarded, whether it's a gun item in a game or better access in a dating app, things that you would have to pay for. Instead of paying, you can engage advertising and get it for free. So Tapjoy's network today, we have close to 600 million users that we can access through our network. So globally, in terms of rewarded network, it is the largest. But I think an important story I want to tell you about growth is in 2011, in the second year, there are many, many things that Tapjoy wanted to build. They wanted to build, programmatic, mediation platforms, creative ad units and DSP. But what they created was CPI. Who's heard of CPI? Does anyone know what CPI is? Okay, a couple of you. CPI is cost per install. Basically, the concept of installing, buying installs on either iOS or Google Play Store. With that one product, CPI, it caught fire, because app developers, that was their #1 issue. How do I get installs? So Tapjoy was able to offer a way very efficiently to purchase installs on either of the stores. So in 2011, I think Tapjoy went from $20 million in revenue to more than 100 million in the next year. So it basically, skyrocketed. And the key, I think, was focusing on CPI. Although 10 different product things they could build, they saw that CPI was doing very well. So we focused on one product only. And I can tell you, in that year, many times we have network problems. The network goes down for a day. People aren't getting their coins. Many, many massive complaints. But because CPI was unique, and there's nowhere else to get CPI, the next day, after the network comes back, they come back with another $1 million check, willing to use the network. So in this world of mobile advertising, it's changing all the time. Many, many changes, very volatile. So after CPI, Tapjoy became very famous to be able to provide the installs to the marketplace. But that wasn't enough. There is new video. Video is the latest trend in advertising. Today, video in Tapjoy network is about 50% of the revenue. 1 year ago, it was only 10%. So because there's continuing changes, for a company like Tapjoy today, we have over 200 million in revenue. But the game is not over. We're still very risky business and very volatile. So last year, Tapjoy did acquisition. We bought a company in Korea, which was analytics. And we talked about Google guys today. There's another Google guy, Eric Schmidt. Who heard of Eric Schmidt? Just a couple more heard of Eric Schmidt. Eric Schmidt was at a breakfast meeting in Korea talking to entrepreneurs, and he gave one advice. He said, whatever business you're doing, focus on AI, focus on artificial intelligence, focus on data. And it's very true, because it's so hard to get your customers. And when you get your customers on your network, you have to hold them and keep them. So the better analytics and the better data you know about your user, the more ROI, the more return on investment you will get from each user. And someone else mentioned LTV, lifetime value. So the investment we did last year was an analytics tool. So now with this analytics tool, if you're a app developer, within a month, we can predict the activity of your user 1 year down the road. 2 years ago, the only analytics was, is he paying user or non-paying? Now the analytics is, did he pay twice in 1 day? Is he paying every week? Did he take a month to pay? Every characteristic, every segment is different. So your message, your notice to those different users must be different. So these insights are giving app developers and companies a lot more insight into how to persuade their user to either buy items, be more active, engage higher. So I think it's very important, as you gain your users, to be smart about your analytics, understand your BI, and understand your data to get more out of your users.
Charles, maybe just to break it down for app developers or companies here. So if they have an app and they want to, I guess, get installs, how would they go about interacting with Tapjoy? Do you go to your website and check out, or what is the CPI for a company or an app developer here?
For instance, Tapjoy has about 90 million users in Southeast Asia. I think in Vietnam it's about 15 million MAU. We're probably able to do about 1,500 to 2,000 installs per day. So still relatively small, but that's just in rewarded platform. So typically, if an app developer runs a marketing campaign, there's many strategies of how to run marketing campaign. But typically, it's burst. You don't do spread over a long time unless you have a lot of money. So burst campaigns are very important. And in, let's say, Tapjoy in Southeast Asia today, buying one install maybe costs about 50 cents US is the cost of an install. And today, because there are many good attribution networks that can track how much your marketing dollar went. Did the user you acquired, how long did they stay? And are they actually returning value for you? All this is very transparent today. So, it's getting much better in terms of how you do your marketing and advertising buy. But CPI is one example, but there are many, many different things now, right? Cost per install, cost per engagement, cost per action. So very specific actions that you can do. Each has a specific cost.
And do you have current customers that you can disclose that you work with in Vietnam, or like a case study or of
I didn't get permission to say, so I don't want to say name, but one of the largest game companies in Vietnam, as example.
Okay, got it. No, great. So I think we've discussed briefly 4 platforms that can assist or partner with a lot of the startups to give greater growth. Dung's here. Obviously, we all know that he's with the leader of Uber in Vietnam. We wanted to kind of have Dung tell a case study of basically his story of Uber in Vietnam and also globally, and some of the growth strategies and some of the metrics that you've seen with Uber.
Hi guys. Obviously, I can also be a platform that work with you guys as well. So it's just not about the story that I will tell you about Uber. I think there's an interesting chart I want to show you a bit. Flip to the next one. It's a very interesting chart that we show to within the company and to the audience outside. So this is basically the chart on MAU for Facebook and Google, and Uber. We love to show this chart within the company. It shows monthly active user. Obviously, the number is disguised for some purpose. But what you can see is that Facebook in the early years they have achieved tremendous growth, right? This is about, by the way, by 2007 they got roughly 40 million active users after 4 years in operation. And at Uber, we are what we call like a very fast-growing startup. We also trying to acquire more users as possible, because growth is something that I think not just Uber but every one of you here in the room would like to achieve at some point. The difference between Uber and Facebook at this point in time is that every single MAU we got are paying MAU. Right? Facebook at that point was not paying MAU. So not only we got the growth, but we also got the revenue and profitability coming from the user. The challenge is Facebook. There's a guy called Shamat at that point in Facebook 2007. He was saying that at some point we got to 1 billion active users, and everyone was thinking that was crazy, everyone. And then 5 years later, they got to 1 billion. And I think, you know, Uber, we still very, very far away from it, but we're trying to make that happen. So how do we make that happen as a company? We have basically a very, very simple way of doing it. I'm not sure I can tell you a lot of things about learning, but I will share with you. Next slide, please. Yeah, so it's very simple. Get more riders, get more drivers, and we got a good growth platform. So, you know, you see the grandma right there, she's doing this, right? So what is the goal of us doing this stuff here? Basically, we need to make our app, our UI so simple that even the grandma can use it. So my mom actually used Uber now after a while. She got an iPhone, but she never played around with it. One day I tell her to do it. Now she actually uses Uber. So the first thing is that your user actually use it. The second thing I think for all the startup company here is virality. Right? I think word of mouth. I think for a good product, word of mouth is the best kind of marketing. So we're trying to, sort of incentivize people to refer more. And not just, a lot of companies just forget, beyond the first stage of referral. We also make sure that we incentivize user to refer across the life cycle of that user. So it's not just like, oh, you use Uber, refer, get more credit, but at some point in your life cycle using Uber, you refer more. So that is very important. The third thing about virality is we're trying to have ingestion of contact. What is ingestion of contact? Basically, we're pooling contacts together, right? So that what do you have? We have people who can have, your friends, knowing about using Uber. So basically, your referral is more credible, and we also help us fighting fraud, right? And in particular market like Vietnam or China or India, what we do is also open the market to mobile sign up, basically signing up with our email, or basically in Vietnam, now in India, you can see, we can use cash, right? So just adapt the product to the market so we can achieve more growth. The second piece, which you can see that actually the picture of New York City, right? It used to be all yellow cab, but we just put a little Uber like ETA on it. Our goal is to turn everyone into Uber driver, every single car in the system, or not the system, here into Uber driver, right? Why? Is it because, cheaper that way to everyone to get around. So how do we do it, right? The first thing is we want to make sure that driving is like so easy and so much fun and make instant money together. So what we do, for example, in China, we implement a program called Uber Commute. It's basically people just driving to work every day. So how can different people on the same route to work can share? Right? So the guy make more money, and you don't have to. Some guys don't have to drive, and it's so cheap, like a bus, getting to work. Right? In India, we have the case study of we call Uber Dose. What does that mean? Is that a lot of people there, they want to refer their friends to drive, but they just don't have an Uber account. They're not tech savvy. So we just create like own website and own app, so people can make money by referring people to drive for Uber. Right? So we can actually scale up the virality and the network effect of driving there. And I think the third piece is a growth platform. This one I think is a bit complicated. It's a bit more on the engineering side, so I would not say too much about it. One thing I would like to say about it is we had a program, a platform, I'm not sure you guys know, called Morphis. And Morphis is basically, allow us as a company to reiterate much faster. So before, I remember like about 6 months ago when we tried to do any kind of A/B testing on like driver incentives or rider promo, it takes like 3 weeks to 6 weeks to just set things up, like statistic, what the metric we're looking at. Now it takes a few minutes. So it help us like scale up from, I think at that point, the company running about 100 experiments across the world in terms of kind of the incentive analysis. Now I think we can do like more than 1,000 at any point in time. So that help us, pivot much faster, and therefore we can grow much faster. Now, I think in terms of Vietnam and growth platform, I really love to work with any of you guys, because at the end of the day, we are actually, Uber is like a nexus of connection. We work with banks, we work with like apps, we work with fashion, we work with everyone. Basically, what do we offer? Obviously, we can work a lot in terms of like, partnership, sharing customer database and how we can monetize, but also at the same time bring value to the customers. The second piece, which I think more interesting for Uber Global and Uber Vietnam, is we do a lot of API integration. So I don't know if you guys check, but maybe after this meeting, this conference, you just open your Google Map app and go to public transportation and go from point A to point B. Beyond buses, you also see a Uber option. And so basically, we're trying to integrate with many apps as possible. For example, for app in Vietnam, we can think of Foodie or Lozy, all those kind of thing, because people need to go to point A to point B much more easy. So any of the startup here, if you have a platform, we love to integrate with you guys.
So, how many MAUs in Vietnam in terms of active users? Can you disclose that number? And maybe not.
Yeah, we're still a private company.
Okay. And
But I can say that in a year we got more than 15% of the credit card and the international debit card market signing up, and this is not easy, right? Because if you look at the e-commerce website like Lazada and a lot of company, I think 90%, over 90% is still COD, right? But 95% of transaction on Uber platform are purely credit card, international debit card. That means if you have a good product, people can trust, people willing to put down all the information of credit card down there.
And have you gotten into logistics and delivery yet, or are planning to for Vietnam market, or how do you?
Sure, it will be coming. In the US, we have implemented Uber Rush. Basically now, before it's a C2C platform, but now we pivot to B2C platform. So it helped, and we actually work with like Shopify, basically helping like small business getting their stuff delivered much easier using existing vehicles on Uber platform. So with I think the boom of e-commerce in Vietnam, I don't see any reason why we're not expanding to that verticals.
Right. I'm not sure how we're doing on time. Are we okay? Great. And so I guess the second part of this discussion that I think may be of interest to the growth companies here is regional strategy. And maybe David, you can speak to kind of what you think about how important is having a regional strategy, or should it be done?
So I think, there's a balance. One is you have to get good at where you are and all of those things. But what really hatched the regional plans, at least in our group, was after a trip to the States, just meeting with the M&A guys of some of the major companies. Everyone's interested in Southeast Asia, but they have a hard time just saying like looking at the Philippines, for example, or maybe Vietnam. Like they want like a roll-up story. And so since then, we've just been thinking about how do we partner, which is I guess a smarter way because we don't know the local locations and co-invest and stuff like that. But from a standpoint of growing, getting a Series B or even an eventual exit, I think having a regional plan, at least in the roadmap, is very, very important.
And Charles, you mentioned I think a regional approach or looking at regional is that same hold to be true for you too?
I think in my experience, as I mentioned, doing B2C takes a strong understanding of the culture. So when you have a product that is scalable, usable in more than one country, then I think a regional strategy can make sense. And that's why I like B2B. Enterprise products are things that, let's say, developers across regions can fully understand. They all speak coding, they all speak English, right? So that kind of thing lends itself to a regional business. But consumer businesses are more difficult, I think. It can be done. There's a few examples in the world, like Google, but there's not many that you can really, cross-promote a B2C business across very different regions and cultures. There are similarities here in Southeast Asia that you can try to play on, but I think even in Southeast Asia, we haven't seen one really in terms of a B2C successful cross-regional business. I know Grab Taxi is something that's going cross-regional that seems to do well. Sorry, Uber, but and obviously Uber, right, being a global business is but regional businesses, local ones going regional, not many, right?
Great. Well, I just like to thank the panel for sharing their thoughts and spending time with us. And if there's any other questions.